for Macquarie.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. In a month's time, 13.5 million Australians will be paying less tax in every pay packet because of this Albanese government. In Macquarie, that means 67,000 people will see more money in their pocket when they get their pay packet. For a worker on the average wage of $73,000, that's a tax cut of $1,500 per year. For a family on the average household income of $130,000, it's a tax cut of $2,600. This is money that will be directly in people's pockets. 84% of the taxpayers and 90% of women will be getting a bigger tax cut because of the changes that are in the legislation in this budget, including, of course, nearly 3 million Australians who were going to miss out completely under the previous tax regime of getting any sort of cut. Those who earn less than $45,000, they weren't going to get a single cent under the Liberals. But now they will, like everybody else, be better off because they will have a cut to the tax that they pay. The tax cuts are better for women. They're better for part-time workers, they're better for young people, they're better also for businesses and for workforce participation. Also in a month, along with that tax cut for every single taxpayer, there's going to be energy price relief for every single household. $300 off the power bill for every home in Australia, and money to support small businesses as well with their power costs so that their bill is reduced. And the way we're doing this means that inflation will also be cut at the same time as we're helping people. And we know that this has very wide economic benefits as a consequence. When it comes to homes, there's also $32 billion that we're investing in more social housing, more public housing, more affordable housing, more construction. There are incentives for people to build more homes so that they can be rented. There's funding for the urgent works that are required by state governments so that you can do residential construction. And these are things that are encapsulated in this budget, which is a commitment to tackling issues of cost of living and housing and many others. And I'm going to break down some of the initiatives in our budget. I'm going to start by talking about women and how our budget helps women. Let's talk about women's safety. This budget includes key financial commitments that go alongside the package of work that we're doing to ensure that women and their children are able to be safer. There's nearly $1 billion over 5 years for the Permanent Leaving Violence program to help women who need financial support to escape. There's around $44 million to provide an immediate funding boost to the legal assistance sector, and that is the community legal centres in my electorate who provide extraordinary support for women. And I know how stretched they are, and we know that this is just the start of getting the support that's needed into that sector. But this budget provides for a boost until the national partnership is renegotiated from the 1st of July and comes into effect from the 1st of July in 2025. There's also nearly $40 million to eradicate gender-based violence from universities. That sits alongside the whole range of women's safety things. For instance, in the meantime, as a whole lot of work is being done, the Australian National Research Organisation for Women's Safety is being funded to further build the evidence base on pathways into and out of perpetration of family, domestic and sexual violence. And that takes place at the same time as our rapid review of targeted prevention approaches to violence against women takes place. All of these are funded in this budget. These investments build on the $2.3 billion already put in place to support women's safety and deliver the national plan. So a huge, important step for women's and children's safety. But the budget also directs $1 billion towards social housing for women and children fleeing violence and young people. And that really goes to the next tranche of things that are important for women to have security, and that is investment in women's economic equality and financial independence. And this budget includes initiatives in that area. For a start, more than $1 billion over 4 years is set aside to pay superannuation on government-funded paid parental leave for parents, babies born or adopted from the 1st of July next year. That means women won't go backwards with their superannuation. A huge step, long wanted, and of course only a Labor government that will deliver it. There's also nearly $2 billion over 5 years because we recognise that many women are in social housing or are supported in their housing. And why I put this one in here in terms of security, that housing security is at the core of being safe. Around 40%, there's been around a 40% increase in government rent assistance maximum rates since we came to government. Now, about half the people who benefit from that are single parents, and the vast majority of those are women. So there's a tangible support for women. We're also providing financial support to the women who are students who do mandatory nursing, midwifery, social work or teaching placements. They'll be supported, and this budget allocates the funds to ensure that they can be supported while they're doing their mandatory prac teaching and can survive and finish their course thanks to this support. We've set aside funding in anticipation of the final decision of the Fair Work Commission on wages for aged care workers, again a highly feminised industry, and that builds on the $11 billion increase that's already been provided for the wage increases that have been granted. Plus, we've set aside funding for the wage increase for early childhood education and care workers once the details are finalised by Fair Work. Again, a highly feminised industry, and these things give women greater financial security. We're also creating more training and job opportunities for women, including, for instance, $55 million over the next 4 years for a Building Women's Careers program to drive industry change and boost the number of women in high-paying careers in the construction, clean energy, tech and advanced manufacturing workforce. We want to see women's participation increase, and everything we've done in government, including in this budget, speaks to that. Women's health is absolutely crucial to their engagement in the workforce and their ability to be there for their families and participate in our society. And there is a dedicated $56.1 million women's health package in this budget. Let's look at some of the things that are there. A huge amount of it, nearly $50 million, is to introduce longer consultation items for patients with complex gynecological conditions, such as suspected endometriosis, but also many other PCOS, many other conditions. Now, that means that GPs will be funded to spend more time with women. There's $3.5 million over 4 years to expand indemnity insurance for privately practising midwives, and I know in my community, particularly in the Blue Mountains, this will be a much welcomed investment. There's funding to support women and their families who've suffered miscarriage and pregnancy loss. There's funding for participating maternity services and First Nations communities to help prevent preterm and early term birth. There's funding to collect better data on miscarriages and on sexual and reproductive health, all things that have been largely ignored by the previous government. There's also around $5 million to support the placement costs for health professionals to undertake training to support access to long-acting reversible contraceptives, another really significant women's health initiative. And $1 million to develop an interactive contraception decision tree to help women and their health professionals work through their best options. There'll be $12 million for national Aboriginal community-controlled health organisations to provide free period products, and $6 million for 4 years of outreach healthcare in crisis accommodation to support women and children who are experiencing family, domestic and sexual violence. And I have to put this one in. $1.2 million to support placements for health professionals to enrol in the professional development accredited course Managing Menopause. And all these things are things that have just been ignored but make a profound difference to women and come on top of initiatives we've introduced already, things like the endometriosis clinic that is available and close to my community in Rouse Hill. So women are winners out of this budget. It's a budget for everybody, and for the first time in many years I can see that more than anybody, women are the winners here. I also, Deputy Speaker, think that young people have been placed at the centre of our decision-making. And when I say decision-making, when we make decisions about what the priorities are and where the funding goes, it is so crucial to think about those who are coming up behind us, not just those in my position and of my generation. Every young person will get a tax cut. Every household that a young person is living in, whether they're renting on their own, whether they're in the very early stages of owning their own home, they will receive support and relief from their energy bill. And I just want to talk about those numbers. Around 1.5 million taxpayers are aged 18 to 24, and they're going to receive around, on average, $1,000 from their tax bill. 1.6 million are in the 25 to 29 age bracket, and they'll receive, on average, around $1,573 cut from their tax bill. We also know that for young people, carrying a HECS debt or a HELP debt is another financial thing that weighs them down. I certainly see it with my own children, who quite frankly are now just outside that youth category, now that they've hit their 30s. However, the relief on help in the help system to make it fairer for people carrying a student debt is immeasurable. We know that the wiping of around $3 billion off that help debt will help more than 3 million Australians. And in Macquarie, it's around 16,225 people who will benefit from the lightening of that help debt load. It is also young people who will benefit from the prac payments so that it supports their teaching, nursing, social work, university placements. Around 73,000 eligible students are going to benefit across the board. And, for young people who I speak to, this has just also been a huge relief for them to know that someone is listening to the challenges that they face. For other young people, the key to getting into university is going to be the $350 million that's being delivered for the fee-free uni-ready courses to prepare them for university, to open up that pathway. Others will benefit from the new new energy apprenticeships program, so that more apprentices can receive up to $10,000 to be in those really apprenticeships of the future, which we need to be working on now. And that is for parts of the Hawkesbury where there's a very high desire to go to TAFE, and lots of families will look at that and say, great, here's a licence to go into that part of the TAFE system. The expansion of that program, which comes into effect in just a couple of days' time, means more clean energy apprentices can be in training to support that transition to net zero. Right now, there are around 2,085 apprentices currently in Macquarie. I look forward to that number rising. I think training more tradies and construction workers to build more homes is going to benefit not just the workers who are working there, but also the generation who really needs to see us boosting the housing supply. And our $32 billion of investment in housing is going to see them be the winners. Deputy Speaker, there's funding for live music, there's funding for the arts, all of these things, and our mental health investment make things better for our young people.
Thank you. The question is the bill be